Alright, hi guys, I'm just another guy named James, and today I'm going to be talking about The Punisher, Return to Big Nothing, which is a graphic novel produced by Marvel Comics, but released under the line Epic Comics, which basically just means that it's intended for more mature audiences. Basically, think the difference between a PG-13 movie and a PG movie, you know? It's more mature than other Marvel comics at the time, but still not necessarily made for adults. And this graphic novel is written by Stephen Grant, drawn by Mike Zeck, and inked by John Beatty. And this is the same team that did Punisher: Circle of Blood, which is another very strong Punisher story. And honestly, I like this graphic novel a lot. I'll just let you know that right now. Stephen Grant's writing on it is a lot of fun. Well, maybe fun's not the right word. It's very good. Mike Zeck's art is just gorgeous, and seeing it in this slightly larger scale is just really cool. There's just something about Zeck. He just gets these cool angles without making it look like he's trying to get the weirdest angles he can. And if you think you recognize the name Mike Zeck, it's because he honestly did a lot of really famous work. He drew the Secret Wars story that I talked about a couple years ago, and on that his art is just absolutely incredible. It's really impressive artwork coming out of Zeck in that series. He had a decent run on Captain America, a good run on Master of Kung Fu. Then of course he did the first Punisher limited series, Punisher: Circle of Blood, and that's probably his most iconic work. Maybe he does a lot of really iconic stuff, so it's hard to say. But yeah, honestly, I'm just really excited to get into this story. So let's get going. Because the story starts with Punisher in the back of a pickup truck with a bunch of munitions, and he is clearly in the middle of an investigation, and he's about to make a bust. So he's prepping all of his guns and some explosives and all that good stuff. But then we cut out to the desert where we see that the truck and like a little sedan car are driving off into the desert to meet up with some Cambodian gangsters. And the deal starts to go wrong when one of the gang members reveals that he is in fact an FBI agent and that everybody is under arrest. He even has a backup agent with him who's hanging out in the mountains, but it doesn't matter because the agent who is undercover is killed, but the other FBI agent tries to spray some machine gun fire down onto the gangsters, but things really quickly are going south for him. So Punisher jumps out of the back of the munitions truck, blows up the pickup truck, and then he just starts killing everybody. Punisher then steals the car, and he starts to drive the FBI agent to the hospital. And while he's on the way, the FBI agent explains to Punisher that the case the FBI agent was working is a very high profile one, and it leads all the way from the Cambodian gangsters, who Punisher just took out a small group of, all the way into the military, specifically to a Marine gunnery sergeant named Gorman. And upon hearing that name, the Punisher is reminded of who he used to be, the Marine Frank Castle, and he is also reminded of his old superior, Gorman, who was, even back in the Vietnam War, a very corrupt force. He's also just kind of a jerk. And Punisher is brought out of his memories only to find that the FBI agent next to him is dead. So the Punisher just casually borrows his credentials and then drops him off at the hospital so that they can, bury him and all that stuff. We then cut to Sergeant Gorman, who is stationed at Pendleton Military Base, where we see him requesting the file for the Punisher to be pulled. Gorman also calls his partner in the drug trade, another Marine named Snow, And then the file is delivered, and we see that Gorman recognizes the Punisher. We then cut back in time to Cambodia, where we see Big Nothing, or Frank Castle, is put on point as his unit backs up to their base. And while Castle is on point, the rest of the unit is gunned down. The rest of the unit meaning everybody except for Snow and Gorman. And we then see that in the Punisher's internal monologue that the bodies of the dead Marines who Snow and Gorman killed were used to ferry drugs back to the U.S. So basically, they would take all the guts out of the guys and put drugs in instead. And then we see the Punisher arrive at Pendleton disguised as the FBI agent from earlier, and he finds Gorman. Puts a gun to the back of his head, but before Punisher can press Gorman for information, he is jumped by the Cambodian gangbangers. The gang takes Punisher out to the desert to kill him with an explosive car, but Punisher is able to escape, and he even finds a clue that leads the gangbangers to a brothel. After a 2-day walk through the desert, the Punisher has lost the trail to Gorman, but he arrives at the brothel. So he gets a bed and someone to share it with, fortunately, and we see him having a dream about his dead wife, before he's woken up by the gangbangers arriving to the brothel. The Cambodians come in, and one of them takes a girl up to her room, leaving the other 4 to rob the place and kill off all of the customers. Punisher finds the one who was sent to kill everyone and stabs him to death before throwing his body through a wall and shooting the other gangbangers. Punisher then finds the last gangster upstairs, and he punches him out and then presses him for information, which the gangbanger gladly gives him, saying that he was supposed to deliver the money that the crew stole to a casino in Vegas called the Golden Ram. But before the banger can say any more, the prostitute shoots him, so the Punisher heads to Vegas. We then cut to the casino, where we see Snow and Gorman getting a little anxious, wondering where the Cambodians are. But their thoughts are interrupted by the manager of the brothel calling and telling Snow that the Punisher has killed the Cambodians. We then cut to the entrance of the casino, where we see Punisher walking in as Gorman walks out. Punisher then puts all of his money on a rigged roulette wheel and shows the man running it that he's armed. So he keeps winning until Snow comes up to kick him out, and Snow realizes that he's come face to face with the Punisher, so he runs, but Punisher is able to catch him. We then cut to the San Joaquin prison, where the Punisher, using his FBI credentials from the beginning of the story, gets in. And after he gets in, he knocks out a security guard and steals his uniform. While he's standing in the yard, he sees the reason that he's there, a man named Chiudap, the head of the Cambodian cartel. And when Punisher sees Chiudap, he goes up to him and starts beating up Chiudap's henchmen, demanding to know where Gorman is. So after Punisher gets Chiudap in a headlock, he agrees to spill on Gorman. And as Chiudap babbles, Punisher remembers the friends that he lost in Vietnam, the friends whose bodies were gutted and stuffed with drugs to make Chiudap, Gorman, and Snow rich. And he's so mad that he snaps Chiudap's neck, and then he escapes with a well-timed explosion. Because in the midst of Chiudap's babbling, he inadvertently revealed where Gorman is. We then cut to Gorman at the military base where he and Punisher met, a base called the Big Nothing. And as Gorman waits, he sees an alarm go off, alerting him to a car driving up to the base. And the Punisher comes running out, shouting for Gorman, yelling that it's him. And while he destroys proximity mines around, while the Punisher destroys proximity mines around him, Gorman has a rocket launcher, blows up the Punisher before walking down to finish the job. And after a few rounds are unloaded into the Punisher, Gorman flips over his body so he can watch as the life fades from his old enemy's eyes. But he realizes that it wasn't the Punisher who he shot and killed, but his man Snow. Then the real Punisher shows up and shoots him in the shoulder, before shooting him again in the leg, leading Gorman to call out,
"Ah, damn you, Castle. Is this your way of getting even?"
"What's even? All the money you stole, all the people you betrayed,
all the lives you wasted. Your death doesn't begin to balance that. Now we make like the OK Corral, right? Well, forget it. I've played enough poker to know when I've been dealt a losing hand. I surrender. Take me in. I'll take my chances in court.
Court.
Don't con your old Sarge. I knew you when, if you wanted me dead, I'd be dead. You're the straightest arrow I've ever met. Strictly by the book. You wouldn't shoot an unarmed prisoner of war. Besides, killing me won't change how the world works, and you know it. You never got it, did you? You're still working on good and evil. No such things, Castle. There's only what feeds the system and what doesn't. I'm a real world kind of guy. I fed the system, worked out great. You're a zero in the system. Zip effect. A big nothing. So I do time. So what? When I get out, I'll still be rich. Castle. What'll you have, Castle? What'd you ever have? Castle. Frank Castle died with his family. I'm the Punisher. He sucks air as if breathing hard enough will make him live again. Soon the sucking stops. Their laughter dies out all over the world. They know. They laugh at the law. The rich ones who buy it and twist it to their whims. The other ones who have nothing to lose, who don't care about themselves or other people. All the ones who think they're above the law or outside it or beyond it. They know all the law is good for is to keep good people in line, and they laugh. They laugh at the law, but they don't laugh at me.
Alright, so that's the story, and honestly, it's really solid, you know? Mike Zeck's artwork, as you hopefully saw throughout this, is just absolutely sensational. The angles that he has, the way he draws Punisher as such a physical force, it's really nice. I like it a lot. Stephen Grant's writing on this is just, I think it's just the right amount of dark for a Punisher story. And there is the one scene that I really dislike, and that's the whole Punisher in the brothel thing, where he spends a night with one of the prostitutes and all that. None of that really fits the Punisher character, and it honestly doesn't add anything to the story, so I don't know why it was included. And I think the story would have overall been better if it wasn't. But it's in there, and it's short enough that you can honestly just forget about it. The action scenes in this comic are great. That first scene with where he's taking out the Cambodian gangsters, I love that scene where he's just, he just takes them out. He just takes them all out. It's just cool. The end, obviously, I really like. That's why I read it verbatim. But the fact that Punisher wasn't Punisher, at the end of the story where Punisher puts snow in the costume, I did not expect that at all while I was reading it. I did have the thought when his legs got blown off that, oh, well, that's not the real Punisher, but that's odd. Who is it then? Because I just assumed Snow got killed by Punisher in the casino, because that's normal for Punisher. But honestly, I really like this story. It's just a standard Punisher adventure, but Mike Zeck's art really sells this story as something special. Zeck just gets these angles that just are really cool, really, really interesting angles, and I like it a lot. John Beatty's inking is honestly just a great compliment to Zeck's pencils. His inking is nothing crazy, but it just fits together so well, and it's just a really good story. It's well drawn, well written, well executed. Having it be a graphic novel, I think, was a good choice, because you can have it be slightly darker. You let the artists and writers take their time on it more. It's just really cool. I like it a lot, and honestly, that's really all I've got to say about it. It's the second Punisher story written by Stephen Grant, drawn by Mike Zeck and John Beatty. And honestly, it doesn't really feel like a sequel to Circle of Blood, but at the same time it does. And for that, I really like it. And honestly, I think it was better than the Punisher comic was at the time in 1989. But overall, it's just a good story, good art, good writing. 10 out of 10, would recommend. The Punisher, Return to Big Nothing. But really, that's all I've got for you today. So, I'm just another guy named James, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.